Have you asked yourself, why would the richest man on earth become a politician? But not just any politician, but a really strange one.
Yes! Is what victory feels like. Yeah!
I've spent 3 years of my life debunking every idea Elon Musk ever came up with. I debunked the loop, SolarCity, SpaceX, and self-driving cars. So why do I think Elon Musk became a politician?
Yeah!
Musk has always been a politician. Musk used to support Obama back in 2008. Then he supported Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. And then he switched to become a Trump supporter.
Come here. Take over, Elon. Just take over.
You're probably thinking, how the hell did that happen? Why would Elon go from being a lifetime Democrat to Republican? Well, we have to go back to 2008 to see why Elon became a Obama supporter.
Announce $2.4 billion in highly competitive grants to develop the next generation of fuel-efficient cars and trucks powered by the next generation of battery technologies, all made right here in the US of A.
Obama announced $2.4 billion for batteries electric cars. When Elon heard the government's giving out subsidies, Elon just had to run over there as fast as he could. Oh, those sweet subsidies. And when Elon met Obama, he had to say,
"Money, please."
This is Elon every time the government comes up with a subsidy.
Money, please. Money, please.
So now you know why Elon was a Obama supporter. Same goes for Hillary and Joe Biden, because they were handing out subsidies to electric cars. But what changed? Why did Elon become a Republican? Here's an interview 3 years ago.
Like Biden held this EV summit. Didn't invite Tesla. Didn't mention Tesla once, and praised GM and Ford for leading the EV revolution.
So you were pissed.
Does this sound maybe a little biased?
So Elon was probably worried that Biden's gonna cut away his subsidies and give it to his competitors. So Elon saw no choice than to switch and become a Republican. But why did Biden go against Elon Musk?
President Biden went to Belleville, Michigan today. It's near Detroit. He spoke to striking workers outside a GM redistribution plant, telling them they saved automakers during the 2007 and 2008 financial crises. And now that profits are up, their pay should be too.
As you all remember, Obama used taxpayers' money to save up all these failed companies. So spending all that money to bail up these companies, Democrats tried to get all the votes from all these unions. This is what the government does. They take your money and they give it to the unions. And the unions vote for the politicians. And where are the companies that they bailed out now?
Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enter1. I mean, I had a friend who said you don't just pick the winners and losers, you pick the losers.
So Solyndra went bankrupt, Fisker went bankrupt, and Enter1 went bankrupt after receiving millions and millions of dollars. This is what government intervention in the economy does. It creates one failure after another after another. And when they fail, then they scream for a bailout.
With a bailout or without one, the big three automakers will also still have to lay off thousands of workers. They are back on Capitol Hill today asking Congress for emergency funds.
Money, please. Money, please.
We're joined this morning by Jim Press, Chrysler's president and vice chairman. Good morning, Mr. Press.
Good morning.
This is an interview 16 years ago, and the government gave them a bailout to save the auto industry because they were gonna do mass layoffs. But by bailing them out, you made the problems way bigger. And that's why the government shouldn't bail anybody out and pick winners and losers, as it will just create a huge mess and a bunch of losers.
And Fisker and Tesla and Enter1.
Every company Obama bailed out failed. The only one that's left is Tesla. This is what happens when the government bails out failed businesses. Whole problem with this thing is government bailouts. Everyone wants them, but it just makes the problem worse.
President Obama did not mention the jobs report today when he visited a Chrysler plant in Ohio. He did say the economy faces bumps on the road to recovery, and he said his administration's auto industry bailout saved a lot of jobs.
His bailout saved a lot of jobs?
And Fisker and Tesla and Enter1.
Here's Peter Schiff 10 years ago explaining what bailouts does to the economy.
All these big banks that were too big to fail are now even bigger than they were before.
Every time he says banks, you can replace that with auto industry, with insurance industry. Every intervention into the economy just messes the economy up.
And now the next time they fail, it's going to be even more disruptive to the economy than had we let them fail last time. In addition, by propping up these insolvent institutions, a lot of smaller banks did fail or were merged or bought up or went out of business. If the government had stayed away, the smaller banks that weren't as leveraged up, that didn't make as many mistakes, that didn't drink all the Kool-Aid that was poured by the Fed, the more competent banks would have picked up the slack. They would have increased market share. They would have picked up additional customers. They would have hired some of the laid off employees, and they would have been rewarded for their prudence. Instead, they were punished, and we rewarded the profligate, the incompetent. That is the problem with government, right? In the free market, it's kind of like evolution, the survival of the fittest. The best managed banks, the best run, the most competent win. But in the government system, it's the least competent, it's the most reckless, it's the greediest, it's the ones who have the most political connections. They're the ones that win, right? So it's a perverse system, the survival of the least fit. And so instead of having a stronger banking system as a result of the crisis, we have an even worse, even weaker system that's prone to an even bigger crisis, which unfortunately is not too far away.
As the government started to investigate Elon businesses, he had no choice but to become a Republican. And Musk is probably gonna ask for a bailout or a bunch of subsidies. You know those subsidies that the EVs are getting. Sweet, sweet subsidies.
Finger licking good special. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about! Subsidies, baby! That's what I'm talking about! Sweet government subsidies!
Finger licking good special.
And when the government looked into full self-driving promises,
Tesla ordered car makers to report all serious crashes involving semi-autonomous driving systems like autopilot.
Elon was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'm gonna become a politician! Yes! I wonder what's gonna happen to these investigations.
Tesla's full self-driving feature is under federal investigation after reports of at least 4 crashes, including one where a pedestrian was killed.
Tesla is the subject of an investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission tied to a whistleblower complaint about the possible risk of fire associated with solar panel system defects, Reuters has learned exclusively.
But the truth matters to me a lot. Really, sort of pathologically, it matters to me.
Okay, so the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says each time the software was engaged in areas with reduced road visibility from sun glare, fog, or airborne dust.
I think I know more about manufacturing than anyone currently alive on Earth.
Tesla's operating an autopilot have been involved in hundreds of crashes across U.S. roads and highways since 2016. Over the years, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has maintained the technology is safe.
With respect to Tesla, we make the best cars. Whether you hate me, like me, or indifferent, do you want the best car or do you not want the best car?
The kind of things that tend to go wrong with these systems are things like it was not trained on the pictures of an overturned double trailer. It just didn't know what it was. There were some lights there, but the lights were in unusual positions. A person would have clearly said something big is in the middle of the road, but the way machine learning works is it trains it on a bunch of examples. And if it encounters something it doesn't have a bunch of examples for, it may have no idea what's going on.
And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil.
Self-driving technology has got a long ways to go, longer than some car makers are willingly free to admit, I'd say.
And in 2025, we listen to Elon talk about why this election is important.
Since they come and go, some elections are, important, some are not. But this one,
This one really mattered.
And the guy who has received massive amount of subsidies is now working at DOGE to remove government spending. At the same time, he's getting $7,500 for his Cybertruck.
Money, please! Money, please.
And after he has promised and wasted government's money, he becomes me, a libertarian. It's like he's a bullshit artist. How the hell does a government parasite become a small government libertarian?
Some people, they're not stupid, they're full of shit.
Elon promised self-driving cars in 2017.
In California to a parking lot in New York, no controls touched at any point during the entire journey.
And the cars still can't do that in 2025. All these promises has inflated the Tesla stock and made it one of the most valuable car companies in the world. If Ludwig von Mises and Peter Schiff are right, the automotive industry will need another bailout, which will make the problems even worse. And that's why I make these videos, to tell people that every government bailout creates unintended consequences. Peter Schiff explains 15 years ago.
Failure is a part of capitalism, and sometimes we have to let companies fail. If the government had let Chrysler fail back in the 1970s, which they should have done, and a lot of people look back at that bailout as a success, if they had let them fail back then, I'm sure that the re-emerged Chrysler would have been a much stronger company. It would not be going bankrupt today. And General Motors, if we had let Chrysler fail, that would have forced serious changes at General Motors. They would have been able, the management would have been able to get good concessions out of their labor unions. And I think General Motors would be in much better shape today and would not be on the verge of bankruptcy.
Ali, it's real easy to sit here and say, well, let them fail. But the reality is you have jobs, you have communities impacted, you have people who own homes. And so this thing could have a ripple effect across the country.
Peter's logic often makes sense on written pages and in classrooms.
Peter's logic only works in classrooms on written papers? Well, let's see now, 15 years later, if Peter Schiff and the Austrian School of Economics was right, or were we wrong?
And Fisker and Tesla and Enter1. I had a friend who said you don't just pick the winners and losers, you pick the losers.
And I think we'd have a much more vibrant automobile industry had we let Chrysler fail 30 years ago. And I think if we let Chrysler and General Motors fail right now, 5 years from now we'll have a better automobile industry than if we keep them in business, because we're keeping money-losing companies in business, companies that are not making cars profitably. Nobody is buying them. And now if we put the government in charge of designing cars, we're all going to make cars for Ed Begley Jr. and then nobody else is going to buy them?
Did you hear what Peter Schiff just said? We will have companies losing money for each car they sell. Peter said this 15 years ago. And in 2023, we can read that Lucid lost $430,000 per car it sold in Q3. $430,000. They lost a house selling a car. And Rivian lost $30,000 per truck they sold. All that money wasted on top of government subsidies and everything else. Electric cars are a pipe dream of the government. They told us we should buy them to save the climate. Fisker lost $1.4 billion and $35,000 or each car they sold. Only the government is this stupid that they force you to buy a car which the companies loses $30,000-$40,000 per car they sell. And they told us EVs are the future. Future of what? Money burning? So what is going to happen to Rivian and Lucid when the investors pull their money and stop giving them money on their projects? Lucid CEO recently resigned, and we're putting all our trust in this guy.
Or December of this year, we should be able to go from, all the way from a parking lot in California to a parking lot in New York, no controls touched at any point during the entire journey.
It's got to get over real quick. Look at that. So sick.
But recently there have been some progress with self-driving cars, but it still can't do what Elon promised in 2017. It has come a long way. Just look at it driving around in New York. It is impressive. One of the main issues with self-driving cars they have to solve is the car sometimes makes mistakes, because it can't reason and can't think. So now in 2025, if you buy a Tesla, the car can drive by itself, but you have to pay attention and be ready to take over, is still a level 2. But there's no denying the progress. I mean, I'm impressed by this. This is so cool. I kinda wish they actually managed to make self-driving cars. And for that to happen, I think they would need a leap in AI technology. For this to happen, they have to get insanely lucky. Because AI has no intelligence. If you look at the recent data from FSD tracker, you can see that you can drive 368 kilometers before interventions, or 229 miles. Which is impressive, but it's still quite far away from the promises made in 2017. And the crazy thing about Elon is he doesn't only promise this, he also promised robots. I mean, what the hell is he thinking? Robots? Self-driving cars?
90% capable of autopilot. Like, so 90% of your miles could be...
What he promised in 2014 is reality now, a decade later. But he also promised a semi, a roadster, rockets going to Mars. It's obvious that Musk over-promises and under-delivers. But I wish them well. I actually hope they manage to get self-driving cars next year. And they get this big-ass rocket into space. I mean, it would be amazing. A dumbass does all of this. I hope it happens. I really do. Unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. Musk went on from the roadster and the semi on to being a politician and focusing on the DOGE.
He's working for free with DOGE. He's kind of put a lot of his life on hold. And you sued Twitter a number of years ago. You just made him pay you $10 million?
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Well,
That's
I
right.
see.
While Musk is busy grifting around with DOGE and all this bullshit, the Chinese are making some nice cars.
I call it the Great Godzilla. The world has never seen an auto industry of this size, scale. This is a giant machine just getting ramped up.
Biden slapped tariffs on electric cars coming out of China, because these are the prices coming out of China.
Which can otherwise be at least as cheap as $11,500.
During the 1970s, people were saying the Japanese are coming, because nice cars were coming out of Japan. Well, it looks like we can say that BYD is coming in Chinese cars. I must say the cars look great and the price is unbelievable. Check out this car from Xiaomi SU7. It's their first electric car.
Pretty nice interior. I'm surprised just how nice it is inside this car, considering the price point, $40,000 to $45,000 equivalent in the Chinese market. This is a nice interior, nice materials, high quality. Surprising they were able to deliver an interior that looks like this for the price.
Thing is absolutely insane. Beautiful, like leather steering wheel. You got leather absolutely everywhere. Even the heads-up display has felt lining to it. Real. You got a little display here. That's all you need, and you can.
Bro, who cares about the little display? Look at this 3K.
But we're reading news that the Xiaomi is losing $14,000 per car they produce. Hopefully they can get that down. But we also read that NIO is losing $48,000 per car. The only company that is profitable besides Tesla is BYD.
Time for the BYD seal. Right away, I can tell it doesn't handle as well as that Tesla Model 3. Doesn't feel as punchy either when you come out the bends. Doesn't have the punch of the Tesla. That's going to be down to the weight. It's just heavier. Also, I'm getting this warning constantly saying I'm going over 50 miles an hour. Yeah, I know. I can see the speedo. It's all right. It just doesn't seem to have as much front end grip. Oh, there, it kind of lost its composure a little bit, and the stability control just helped me out. It just feels looser, less tied down, a bit more floaty, a bit more leany, a bit more vague. Ultimately, it's just not as good dynamically as that Tesla.
There you have it. BYD isn't as tight, as well built as a Tesla Model 3, the new generation. So it looks like Genius Boy did something great. Even though Elon has butchered the Tesla brand with his politics lately, as a libertarian, I agree with everybody who wants to shrink the government. I'm against subsidies, I'm against ZEV credits, I'm against any government intervention in the economy. And I'm especially against 0% interest rate. I doubt that Trump and Elon's gonna shrink the budget, because it's very difficult to do so. Many people will get really mad, but is it the right thing to do? Just expect a lot of hate against Tesla and anybody who touches the pensions, the Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all the goodies people are used to.
A loud group of protesters gathering outside SpaceX Hawthorne facility this afternoon, voicing their opposition to Elon Musk.
Unfortunately, you have to cut them. You will have some people who hate your guts and other people who would do anything for you, just as people love Javier Milei.
He pledged to attack the system with a chainsaw. Javier Milei loves to provoke a reaction.
Yo soy el león!
Many Argentines see him as their last hope of escape from economic crisis.
In Argentina, the government workers hate Javier Milei, but all the young kids love him because he is cutting the government and reducing taxes. The guy is a legend. Anybody who cut taxes and the government has my vote. The politicians just use the unions and the government to get their votes, just as Biden did. That's why it doesn't make any sense to me that Elon wants to cut the government, but he has received billions in subsidies and ZEV credits.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Since 2009, Tesla made $9 billion by selling EV regulatory credits. And last year they made 1.8 billion. So this guy's gonna cut the government? Yeah, I don't think so. You know who I think would cut the government? Peter Schiff, because he's a libertarian, just like me. We know that all government spending is a waste of money.
Jobs is the government going to destroy by keeping Chrysler and General Motors in business? Think about that. Think about all the unforeseen damage behind the scenes.
Because we know that the people would spend their money more wisely than the government would spend your money. That's why we would cut government spending, so you keep more of your money. And if you like this channel, you can support me on YouTube or on Patreon, as my current YouTube channel is as profitable and current EV cars are. I think my YouTube channel needs to ask for some subsidies.
Money, please!
I learned this from Elon. I would ask the government for a subsidy when hell freezes over. For me personally, hell has frozen over, because Elon is hanging out with my favorite president. You can't make this shit up. Since I've followed Javier Milei for approximately 2 years, it brings a smile to my face every time I see that crazy guy. If Elon starts behaving like Javier Milei, I don't know what I would say about my channel. It would have totally failed. Oh my god, this is so strange. God bless the Austrian School of Economics and Ludwig von Mises.